recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretend it's not there.
What?
Pretend it's not there.
I don't know if I should do that. But I'll do that and we'll shut it off if we need to. Okay. We are in Perek Shmini, page Lamed Aleph, Ois Daled. Good, right? Okay, last time we spoke about the power of using a mahalach of avodah when it comes to our attitude towards food as a way of growing in Kedushas HaGuf and staying below the radar. Not waking the beer. You know, like sometimes when we get involved with dealing with our taivas, it wakes up our taivas and it becomes a whole tug of war and it becomes an OCD and it becomes back and forth and up and down, and there's a mahalach of growth of focusing, instead of focusing on the taivas of ishos, to focus instead on the taivas of achila, which are a little more what's the word I'm looking for? A little more tame and a little less connected to Isurim. And by doing that, a person learns how to develop a mastery over his feelings and his desires that spills over into the more important things in a way that's healthy. And this advice came from the Chazon Ish. Okay, Daled. Michlal lav ata shomei hein. So we've seen about what we shouldn't do. We've seen about control. But Michlal Lav, you could see what the positive avodah is. There's the positive avodah of Kedushas HaGuf. David HaMelech Olav HaShalom Omar Ta'amu Ure'u Ki Toyev Hashem. Taste and see that Hashem is good. Notice that Hashem is good. This is a very, very important part of our avodah to be, and it's something that we're not necessarily so primed for, and that is to become aware of all of the goodness and deliciousness and beauty in our lives. Chazal say that Hashem says, Hevei mekayim kol ha-mitzvos shenosati lecha b'Torah. You should fulfill all the mitzvahs that I gave you in the Torah. Now, you would think that means put on tefillin, daven, learn Torah. No. If you ate from vegetables or fruits, make a bracha on them. Because if you ate without a bracha, you're stealing the fruits or the tree or the earth and from the one that raised them, that grew them. When a person eats and makes a bracha, he's recognizing Hashem's malchus. Taste and see that Hashem is good. So this is a very intriguing thing. Chazal say that a person should be mekayim all the mitzvahs. And the example of being mekayim all the mitzvahs is that when you eat an apple, you should make a bracha. It's interesting. That's the example. So he brings here unbelievable half-lev fella. He says, "V'kosav al zeh b'zeis ra'anon." The Sefer Zeis Ra'anon says, and in parentheses he reveals to us, Shehu Baal Magen Avram, the author of the Magen Avram. He says, Pirush, this means, Im beirachta al kol davar, if you make a bracha on everything, ki ilu ata mekayim kol ha-mitzvahs. It's as if you fulfilled all the mitzvahs, v'zeh inyan nifla. This is an incredible idea. So this is something we need to understand. We need to be able to get a sense of, why is it that if I make brachas on the pleasures of this world, it's like I'm being mekayim all the mitzvahs? Why is that? Certainly it's a wonderful thing to thank Hashem for things. But why is that called that it's like I was mekayim all the mitzvahs? So he says as follows. Ki al yedei habracha when a person makes a bracha, mishtane kol ha'achila l'toiva. The entire, this is deeper than it sounds, so bear with me here. The entire eating process becomes good. He's being gentle with us, but there's something very, very, very profound here. When we eat, we discussed this a few months ago, Shimon, about showers, but now we'll talk about food, okay? When we eat, so a little bit, this is our thing, okay? We come to first Seder, we learn, I'm doing for God, right? I'm not learning for my own pleasure, I'm learning for God. Until you learn for your own pleasure, but for now, okay? Then you have to do a mitzvah, let's say, so you're serving Hashem, you go do the mitzvah. Maybe in the morning you davened. I'm not taking when I daven, I'm serving Hashem when I daven, I'm giving, right? I'm serving. Then I go upstairs for lunch, then I say to Hashem, listen, I've been giving all day. I got to pause. Man's got to take care of himself. And that's how we look at it, that we have the times of our day that we have to put doing aside and take care of ourselves. Do you recognize that back and forth? We have a whole long day of serving Hashem, and then we get into bed at night, and we say, now it's time for me to go to sleep, because that's what I need to do. That's about me. Okay? We order food, we sit down to eat it. We're like, okay, Hashem, I served you all day. Now it's about me. It's about me. However, if a person makes brachas properly, what ends up happening is that eating becomes an exercise of gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And even while I'm eating and enjoying what I'm eating, every bit of enjoyment becomes another part of like this love affair that I'm having with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That He does for me and I do for Him and He does for me. And we're losing count. We're just in love with each other. I keep getting love from Hashem and I just want to do more, and then I get more love from Hashem. Amazing, right? So that's what he says. The bracha changes your eating, that it becomes completely good. Instead of it being a pariv necessity at best, it becomes completely good. Ki al yedei habracha, through making a bracha, mishtane kol ha'achilo l'toiva, all the eating is changed to be good.
It sounds like a cherry on top.
Let's see what he says. Let's hold that thought. That's a good point. Hu toyim b'pri shehu oichel. He tastes in the fruit that he's eating tuvai, the goodness, chinoi, the givingness, chazdoi, the kindness, v'rachamov, the compassion, yizbarach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Every bite he tastes Hashem's love. V'imkach b'chol basher hu mevarech olav, and though the answer might be in this sentence. And if that's the case, with everything he makes a bracha on, harei kol hayoim kuloi, the entire day, b'chol hana ketana, in each little pleasure that he has, hu makir yoser es boira, he sees Hashem in it more. Sometimes a person will come through for you in a very, very big way. You need something, and a person comes through for you. And you feel overwhelming gratitude to that person. You saved me. Okay? Sometimes a person could be in a situation where that happens multiple times over the day. He has a benefactor that just takes care of him. You know, he gives to him, provides for him. And what ends up happening is, if he's able to recognize that goodness, is that every time he receives from his benefactor, it's not just receiving more, it's that the bond becomes more unbreakable. It becomes like this constant feeling of being taken care of. When a person is a servant of Hashem, and a person makes brachos on those things that are appropriate to make brachos on, then everything that he receives from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in his mind, I'm having a hard time explaining this because our minds don't work that way. We look at it like, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I really want to put you on the side so I can eat. Okay, I roll my eyes and I say, okay, I'll have to give you that. I'll make a bracha. But that's not really the relationship with Hashem. Really, the relationship is another thing you've given me. Another opportunity to say thank you. Another expression of gratitude. And then that starts to spill over onto the areas where there is no bracha. Like the ability to take a deep breath. Like the ability to smell, well, when we smell something, often there's a bracha, but you know, like the awe when you walk outside after a snow and you look at that field outside. And you're just like, you saw it in the sun today? It's just like, takes your breath away. Hashem, you didn't have to make it so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. You didn't have to make the sky so blue. You didn't have to make food so delicious. You didn't have to make it so enjoyable to take a deep breath. You didn't have to make sleep so yummy. But you did, because you love me and you're taking care of me. Each pleasure that he has, he recognizes Hashem more and feels more attached to him. That's from the pleasures of the body. Does that mean that the person is sinking into physicality? Or does that mean that he's using his physical to connect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? V'zeh mamish ki'ilu mekayim kol ha-mitzvos kulam. That's like you're being mekayim all the mitzvahs. Because what's the purpose of mitzvahs? Ki haloi zuhi tachlis kol ha-mitzvahs. The purpose of the mitzvahs are to bring us closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The mitzvahs are an anchor that anchor us to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If I live my life that I make brachos with kavana, so then I'm not frummer than the next person. I'm enjoying life more than the next person, and I'm expressing and feeling Hashem's love more than the next person. Zuhi tachlis kol ha-mitzvahs, lahakir, to recognize, ulehiskarev, and to draw close. So this is the flip side of what we learned last time, just one semester ago. Harei achilo l'shem tainug, when a person eats just for pleasure, he letachlis tumah. That's an impurity. It's for a tachlis of tumah. Va'achilo bibracha ubekavana. When a person eats with a bracha and with kavana, ad kedei litaim, to the point that he could taste, v'lirois, and he could see ba in his eating, tuva yisbarach, the goodness of Hashem. He took something that's a tumah and he transformed it into a kedusha. He tachlis kedusha. It becomes a tachlis of kedusha. This is an avodah that we carry with us, that we have to be very, 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 very careful about, because it's easy for it to become rote, and then it just becomes a phrase. Like people who, every time they see something beautiful in the world, they say, Mo Rabu Masecha Hashem. How wondrous, how many are your actions, Hashem. Many people who say it don't even know what it means. But it just becomes the thing you say when you see something beautiful. That's not what the Mashgiach is describing here. Mashgiach is describing living a life where we feel overwhelming gratitude to Hashem for taking care of us, for giving us the wonderful, delicious, beautiful, tasty things that He gives us, and to notice those things. One of the reasons why that we have a little bit of a disconnect, and it's hard for us to connect with this ice, is because we don't feel much. You know that? Like we live in a world. We talked about it on a Tuesday morning recently. We live in a world of where the food industry has been forced to create foods that are so sweet and salty that they literally are like cocaine to the brain. They literally are like drugs to the brain. They shock the brain with their saltiness and sweetness. Okay? And it's a whole technology. They spend millions of dollars hijacking the human brain so that it will eat in a way that's unhealthy, so people will be obese and die young. Right? But what ends up happening is, do you realize what happens? That few times you spoke of when you bite into that fruit, and each one of us is thinking to ourselves, fruit? Okay. But you realize that for him, when he was writing that, there's nothing more yummy than a fruit. I mean, that's sweetness itself, that's sugar. Because the world used to be a colorful place, but everything became dulled, and we're not present in our thoughts. And people eat, and they'll go spend $50, $100, $200 on a meal, and they don't taste the thing. It's just like gobbling. There's no sense of tasting something. I was talking before about the pleasure of taking a deep breath, and I was wondering as I was saying it if anyone knew what I was talking about. Just the pleasure of being able to do that. The joy of being able to sit around with friends and talk. The joy of the simple experience of living. We're numb, no? This is just fly by as we don't know to go one thing to the next, one thing to the next, one thing to the next. We're overtired and overstimulated, and we're just going from one thing to, and we're not living in the moment, really experiencing these things. So he's describing us a mahalach where we could, like literally day by day, exponentially increase our love affair with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but we're like making brachas on foods that we're hardly tasting. We're hardly thinking about the bracha that we're making on the food that we're hardly tasting. It's almost appropriate. Right? But it doesn't have to be that way. We can try to calm down a little bit and focus on tasting something. Focus on appreciating something. It's crazy. It used to be that Avodas Hashem was don't indulge in the world so much. And now Avodas Hashem is please notice the world. It's pretty wild. No? Pretty wild. But it's something for us to focus on. So for us, what to the Mashgiach was one step, to us is two steps. In the Mashgiach's world, each experience in Olam Hazeh is a mind-blowing experience. And he's here to tell us that we should associate each wonderful experience with Hashem's love for us. I remember Rabbi Sonnenschein once saying that when you eat fruit, you should think to yourself that, we have to eat food. If we don't eat food, we'll die. You know that? We absolutely have to eat food. If we didn't have taste buds, we would be skinnier. It's true. But we wouldn't die. We would eat, because if we don't eat, we'll die, and we want to not die. Okay? So we would eat. To quote Rabbi Sonnenschein, he said, your car doesn't enjoy the gas. Okay? Here I am talking about cars again. Okay? When you get into the car and you need gas, or a charge, I guess I should say, for 2026, okay? You pump the gas in. You ever smell that stuff? It's not too appetizing. The car is not like, thank you, this is amazing. It's just gas. If you needed to pump yourself with gas to survive, you would do that because you don't want to die. So if HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to live, He could have given us gas stations and we wouldn't die. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us, and He wants us to find opportunities to connect with Him. And He gave us foods that are so varied in their taste. I mean, just imagine if all food tasted the same. Like any of you ever been in a Pesach hotel? Good. So be careful. Okay? But basically, especially if it's a non-Gebracht hotel, which most of them are, so Every single thing that's made, they make the fanciest food, pizza, pasta, they make all these things on Pesach. But it's all various forms of potato. Be'etzim. Ask Dovi, he knows a little about cooking, right? It's all potato served in many different ways. And be'etzim, when you sit down to these fancy smorgasbord meals in the Pesach hotel, you're really eating potato with a side of potato with a little potato next to it, and a potato beforehand and a potato for dessert. That's really what you're eating. I have a hard time. We have this whole joke in my house. I don't know if you've never been in my house on Pesach. So my wife makes Pesach cake. And I have a hard time eating it because to me it's really potatoes with sugar. Isn't that what Pesach cake is? Dovi, you know how to bake Pesach cake? It's potato starch, sweetened and baked.
Make food that tastes good.
What?
Make food that tastes good.
It tastes good. If you don't think about the fact that you're eating a baked potato, basically, it tastes good. It takes me a while. Once Pesach starts, you reach a point where you're like, okay, fine, I'll eat it. But then the minute Pesach is over, you can't look at it anymore. Okay? So, we eat everything like that. All of our food is like that. We just don't think. We don't taste differently. If Hashem wanted, He could have made... Imagine this. Imagine that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted you to eat. He made potatoes. Breakfast, lunch, and supper. You can even make alcoholic beverages out of potatoes. Okay? Potatoes served all different ways. Yishmak? You'd be vomiting potatoes eventually. But you would have to eat them. You have to deal with them. Different shapes, different consistencies. You figure it out. This is our job. That's why we're not the same as the Mashgiach. He at least knew how to enjoy the world. This is our job. Our job, and we can try this over the next few days. You're in, Shimon? The next few days, in this holy Chabura, trying to become closer to Hashem, we're going to try to taste something. Okay? And try to experience something. And when you walk back to the dorm, you're going to check if there are stars in the sky. And if there are, you're going to be in a spoil how beautiful stars are. And when it's daytime, you're going to enjoy the sight of the glistening white snow, not the black snow on the front of the building. I'm talking about the white snow on the back of the building. Okay? And when you when you drink a coffee, you guys drink coffee? You will taste your coffee. And be like, I want to tell you something. So one of Reb Volva's Talmidim is his name is Reuven Leichter. Some of you know him, and he gives shiurim in Eretz Yisrael. And you can find some of his shiurim online. They're very, very, very engaging and very, very profound. And I had the zchus to meet him a few times, but I will never forget my first meeting with him. I was a nervous wreck going to meet this Talmud Chacham that I was told about, and he was staying in someone's house in Brooklyn, and I was in a kollel nearby, and I was invited to go speak to Rav Leichter about a topic that I wanted to discuss with someone. So I came to his house. And if you've been to Brooklyn, any of you? Brooklyn? So this house, Dovi, was on Avenue L in the high 20s. Okay, so it's like a pretty nice neighborhood. And it was on a second floor. The apartment was on a second floor. And the way it was set up, it was the corner room of the apartment. So there were like three windows. And outside, even though you're middle of Brooklyn, all you saw was trees. Because it was the summertime. And it was just, you were in a room, there's basically two walls of trees. And there was a desk diagonal. To your back was the corner of the room. And he was sitting behind the desk. And the host brought him a cup of coffee. And he was sitting like this, hugging the cup of coffee in his hands. And I sit down, I'm meeting him for the first time, and he's just drunk from the geschmack. And he looks around, and I have no idea what's going on. And he looks by Yifen Koivachai, he looks this way, he looks that way, he looks at his coffee, he's holding the coffee, and his first words that was now is Geschmack. Like, what? But his eyes were open, his taste buds were open, he had a sense of humor, he was alive and present. I don't even remember what we talked about that day. That's what I remember. It's something, no? And that's what we have to learn how to do. Geschmack. And once we do that, then we could feel the joy of having received that geschmack from Hashem. He didn't say that part because he's not a from guy. Okay? He's from. Maybe misunderstand me. He's not a far from to guy. He's not peddling his religion onto me. That's his inner world. That's not sharing with me. He shared with me geschmack. That's what he shared with me. But probably inside he was like, and thank you Hashem for that geschmack. But he would never admit that out externally because that's not my business. But it's our business. And that's what we got to think about. That's what we have to enjoy. To start enjoying life and then retributing it to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's our job. To see the sky and to feel the wind. It's going to be cold this Shabbos, you know that? In Waterbury on Friday night, and I have to walk to 2 Shalom Zachars, really 3, but thank goodness 2 of them are being in the same place. Okay? So, and it's vacation, there's 3 Shalom Zachars and a Bar Mitzvah, the week of vacation, and a baby girl was born this week. So, I looked up how warm it's going to be in Waterbury on Friday night. It's going to be the wind chill factor, the real feel, like they say today, is -3 degrees. That's cold, Fahrenheit. Yeah. That's cold, right? But you know something? Even for that, there's something. Have you been out in the real bitter cold? There's something invigorating. Like, oh my goodness, it is freezing. But to be alive, to be exuberant. We have another minute? You sure? I told over to some kids, I said it over to a ladies' show recently also, this memory that I have. It's a 30-year-old memory. I got married about 30 years ago, around this time of year, a few months ago, the end of November. A few months later was the blizzard of 96. 30 years ago, the blizzard of 96. And I was living in Brooklyn, and we were in the basement, and the windows were gone. There were no windows anymore because it was all over. And it was like 11 something, I don't remember exactly what time. It was later than we expected anyone to come to the door of 2 newlyweds. And suddenly there's banging on the door. I didn't know what was going on. And it was my brother, who I still love very much. And he was single at the time, 3 years younger than me. So that means that I was 22, so that means that he was 19. And he was like, what are you guys doing inside? He came in bundled up wearing this big Russian hat. It was like, what are we doing inside? What are you doing outside? Are you nuts? He's like, it's gorgeous outside. How could you be inside right now? We're going out. And we were the most serious chassan and kala in the history of Klal Yisrael, okay? We were super serious. I only learned how to smile later, okay? But something tugged at me from that invitation, you know? And I told you this, right? And we put on pairs of pajamas and everything. It was freezing out there. We bundled up. We went outside, and we were drunk. V'loy miyayin, not from wine. Just drunk from the drifts and the snow and just being crazy. And we felt alive. That's a job for us. If we're going to really accomplish Kedushas HaGuf, we have to be present with the Guf. And if we're present with the Guf, we can appreciate what the Guf is taking in, and we can thank Hashem for it. But if we're not present with the Guf, we're going to be craving pleasures that are beyond where we are, and those are not pleasures that we can thank Hashem for. So the goal that we have is to be alive and present and thankful to Hashem for what we have. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give us the koyach to be able to feel it and then thank Hashem for it. Yasher koyach.
Rabbi said a story during the Shalosh Shunas here.